Hey guys, made a little progress. Had a couple of issues um, getting everything apart. The biggest problem I've found so far has been, let's go over this side, has been how much grime is on this engine. Um, I don't even know if you can be able to see it. But there's just, I mean, it's everywhere. I bought a new alternator because it's just covered in that. Um, had a little bit of a hard time loosening the flywheel bolts, but bought a breaker bar for that, got it done. Putting on the water pump, I ended up breaking a bolt for that. So now I'm off to the auto parts store to see if we got a replacement there and to get some Permatex and Loctite, and we'll continue after that. Yesterday I went through the Challenger a little bit, did the tint on the tail lights and stuff. It's a beautiful day outside. Summer is finally getting here, so I'll be able to do a little more outside stuff, but I gotta get this done first. So mostly what I've been doing on this truck has been cleaning. This truck was so dirty, just caked with grime and oil, 30 years of neglect pretty much. I finally have the old engine stripped. I'm starting to put the parts on the new block, or I guess the refurbished block. I have just been literally cleaning everything. I still have to get in here, and it's really hard to see, but I mean, that diff is just covered in grime. I want to get in there and clean a lot of that up. Also found out I could delete my EGR, so I bought some parts to do that. I was also waiting on a couple of parts that I decided to replace rather than remove, such as the dipstick and dipstick tube, where I was going to damage it a lot trying to get it out, so I just bought a new one. The harmonic balancer bolt, I ended up breaking 2 flywheel bolts trying to get that off with a breaker bar, and it wasn't happening, so I just bought a new harmonic balancer and a new bolt, and some new flywheel bolts. So now I'm just cleaning and transferring things over. I'm hoping to, in the next week or two, have it back in and functional, so we'll see how it goes. Otherwise, I'm going to get to cleaning. Alright, so I found out that one of my bolts on the intake was bent. I was able to bend that back. I also got the ERG plates put on. I got the exhaust manifold put on, and the whole intake put on. However, when putting the sensor on the exhaust, I stripped out one of the bolts. Apparently it's really sensitive there, so I have to tap out the exhaust manifold and get a bigger bolt to hold the sensor in. Also, trying to be nice and thorough and clean, I put paper towels in the intake manifold holes to keep debris from getting in there while I was cleaning the gaskets off. Put the entire intake manifold on, and then realized that I did not take those out. So I had to take it all off and take those out and then put it back on again. And in torquing that down, the one bolt that always gives trouble is that Allen bolt. I tightened up pretty good, but the torque wrench never indicated that it was at enough torque, but I felt like I was pushing harder than the other bolts, so I really don't understand with that. I felt it in the handle, but the torque wrench apparently didn't think so. I'm anticipating intake manifold leaks because I put the gasket and the RTV on, tightened it up, and then had to pull it off about 20 minutes later when I was looking for all the rags that I had expected to be on the ground, and I apparently just forgot to take them out. So next will be flywheel, clutch. I got to put on that, fix that bolt problem, and then I think we're about running out of stuff to do outside of the truck. So we'll do that, get the engine bay cleaned up a little, and then start working on putting it back in. All right, everybody. Well, I have completed the install of the new long block into the 4Runner. It was very loud when it first started up. I have since put a muffler on, and there's a lot of timing issues that I came across when I did this that I wasn't prepared for. So after some trial and error and a few YouTube videos, I was able to figure it out. So going through what was hard about this swap, there was a few parts that I couldn't get to cooperate with me very well. One being the crank pulley bolt. I couldn't get that off. I had to buy a new crank pulley and bolt. If I would have had an impact driver or really worked at it, I could have probably got it to work, but I was tired. I ended up breaking a few flywheel bolts, so I bought two to replace the two that I broke, and I ended up buying a whole new set. The long block that I bought, the flywheel bolt threads weren't perfect, so the bolts wouldn't thread in. They wanted to cross thread, so I ended up buying a tap and die set, and then found out that the big set that I bought did not have the one size that we needed. It's a M11 with 1.25 threads. So I bought a separate tap and die pieces with those sizes so I could make sure everything fit. And once I ran those through, it was real easy. Once I ran them through, then they threaded up no problem. Put a little Loctite on those guys and they're good to go. I had to use the tap and die for a few of the bolts that just got cross-threaded. So, I mean, it wasn't a complete loss. Just probably money I didn't need to spend. The exhaust manifold sensor, I ended up stripping out that hole. However, it ended up catching at the end, so I was able to tighten it without too much trouble. I bought a new alternator just because the old one was really dirty. Here's the old block, and you can see the grime that's on there. That was just covering the whole engine. There's a few exhaust leaks, as you can tell. Yeah, this motor had some miles on it. Bought a new dipstick and tube because I could not get that one to come out. It's probably better that I did that anyway. What else did I? Oh, when I mounted the intake manifold, there was one bolt that's always a problem. If you look it up on YouTube, you can find it. It's underneath the goes under the thermostat here, and it's a 6mm Allen. I've just got this sitting in here until I'm sure that it's sealed. I bought a 6-inch Allen like driver for my ratchet. A 6mm Allen driver for my ratchet. It's about 6 inches long as well. But it's all installed. It runs good. I started eliminating vacuum lines, and I'm just going to start pulling those out as I can. The timing took forever to figure out. It ran really rough at the beginning. Could not figure it out for the longest time. I went through all the timing, timed it, and then I finally pulled one of the spark plug wires, and it started to run better. So I figured something was wrong with that plug. Pulled that off. Ended up being the plug was broken. Got a whole new set. Took it up to the muffler shop. While I was up there, the coil was arcing was arcing in there from each post through the coil wire. So I bought new wires, and that cleared that up. Those are the biggest problems I had with this whole install, really. I mean, it went pretty smooth. I mean, for $2,000, I've got basically a brand new running truck. I'll probably go through the intake manifold after I get all the vacuum lines figured out. If it starts fouling up, if I go to do injectors, I'll go through that again. But I just took it off in one chunk. Plugged the holes with shop towels so that I didn't get debris in there. I ended up putting it back on because I'm an idiot, and then looking for the shop towels to throw in the garbage and realizing they were still in the intake, so I had to take that off. Replaced the fuel pump after it was on. I would recommend, if you pull this engine out, just change the fuel filter. Change the fuel filter while it's out, because it's underneath the intake manifold, and it's not impossible to get to. It's just easier when it's out of the truck. Let's fire it up and see what it sounds like. It's a beautiful day here too. Adjusted the rockers twice, but I need to do it again. There's a little clatter, but so apparently my microphone went out while I was talking about the engine. Anyway, so it runs good. The only thing is when I was having trouble timing it, I found that you have to put a jumper in one of the plugs. It's over on the driver's side. I'll show you in a moment. But I used a little cotter pin, just a little metal, I bent into a jumper, and that sets the base timing in the computer. Apparently, I didn't know that until I came across it on YouTube. So there's videos out there for that. Just look for timing a 22RE with the jumper, but I'll show you. So the plug will be this little guy here. It's got a red wire and a green wire, and you just jumper the two. It's just sitting in a little holder there. Apparently the neighbor's doing some work on his car too. The other thing I didn't get to talk about was up in here. Is the fuel filter that I had a hard time with. And then there's that Allen bolt runs all the way back there. But anyway, I'm gonna start working on cleaning up some vacuum lines and breaking in the motor. It's got 100 miles on it so far now. It's running really well. There's no leaking. So, yeah. Anyway, thanks for watching. I'll catch you next time.